You think MMA and boxing are intense? They have so many rules to keep people safe. But what if the only rule was just to survive? What if losing didn't just mean you go home sad, but you get ritually sacrificed? The games our ancestors played were on a completely different level. They were insane, they were brutal, and a lot of the time they were literally fights to the death. I'm talking about games where the losers were literally sacrificed to the gods. We're looking at death matches in ancient Greece where anything goes. The line between playing a game and actually dying was paper thin. These games were everything to these civilizations, with thousands of people screaming in the stands watching brutality you can't even imagine today. In this video, we are counting down 10 ancient sports that would be banned instantly if anyone tried to do them today. Kicking off our list at number 10 is a sport from ancient Egypt that sounds awesome but was actually terrifying: water jousting. Tomb reliefs show us the basic idea. Two groups of men, often fishermen, would hop into flimsy papyrus boats and try to knock their opponents into the Nile River using long poles. Simple enough, right? Wrong. Here's the catch. These weren't friendly duels. The carvings show chaotic, violent clashes, leading some historians to believe it was less of a sport and more of a genuine fight over fishing territory. And while some Egyptians could swim, being knocked into the water was a huge risk, not just from drowning, but from what was lurking underneath. The Nile was famously packed with crocodiles and hippos, turning a simple fall overboard into a potential death sentence. For its complete lack of safety and the very real chance of being eaten, water jousting would be shut down before the first boat even hit the water today. For number 9, we're going to the Vikings for a game called Knattleikr. This is like lacrosse, rugby, and a street fight all rolled into one. Played with a hard ball and wooden bats, often on a treacherous frozen pond, Knattleikr had almost no rules. Two teams would face off, and the goal was to get the ball over the opponent's line. How you did that? That was pretty much up to you. Tackling, wrestling, and just physically crushing your opponent weren't just allowed. They were the whole point. The Icelandic sagas, our main source for the game, are filled with legendary accounts of matches that turned into pure violence. These tales describe players being seriously injured or even killed, with disputes on the field spilling over into real-world blood feuds. One saga even tells of a player killing his opponent with an axe after a heated game. An axe. Even if these stories are exaggerated, any sport where bringing an axe is even a conceivable part of the story would be banned today for its extreme violence. Number 8 is back in ancient Egypt, and this was a test for the pharaoh himself. This was the Sed Festival, a high-stakes ritual to prove a pharaoh's right to rule. Traditionally held after a pharaoh had been on the throne for 30 years, the festival was meant to rejuvenate his power. The main event had the pharaoh perform a ceremonial run on a special course to prove he was still physically vital. So why would a royal jog be banned? It's because of what some historians theorize the festival replaced: the ritual murder of an aging pharaoh. According to this speculative theory, the Sed Festival evolved as a symbolic substitute, but failing the test could still have dire consequences. An inability to complete the run might have been seen as a sign of divine disapproval, potentially leading to the pharaoh's actual sacrifice to make way for a younger successor. While there's no direct proof of this, any sport where a poor performance could theoretically lead to the execution of a head of state would be banned for pretty obvious reasons. Coming in at number 7 is something that is just horrible: dogfighting. Its roots stretch back thousands of years, with the Romans being particularly infamous for organizing animal cruelty as entertainment. After seeing how ferocious British Mastiffs were during their conquest, they started importing and breeding these dogs specifically for combat. In the arenas, these dogs were forced to fight each other, or pitted against other animals like bears, lions, and even armed human gladiators. This was a widespread form of entertainment and gambling where dogs were conditioned for aggression and made to fight, often to the death. The fights were appallingly brutal, ending only when one animal was too mauled to continue or was killed. Today, dog fighting is rightly condemned as a barbaric act of animal cruelty and is a felony in many countries, a far cry from the so-called respectable amusement it was once considered. Number 6 is maybe the most famously dangerous sport ever, Roman chariot racing. Held in massive arenas like the Circus Maximus in front of hundreds of thousands of screaming fans, this was the Formula One of antiquity, but with a horrifying death toll. Up to 12 lightweight chariots, each hauled by 4 powerful horses, would thunder around a narrow track for 7 brutal laps. The danger was off the charts. Collisions were constant and gruesome. The tight turns at either end of the track were kill zones, where charioteers would slam into each other jockeying for position. A crash, grimly called a naufragia or shipwreck, could send a driver tumbling into the path of thundering hooves and splintering wheels. The chariots themselves were so flimsy they'd disintegrate on impact, and drivers often wrapped the reins around their waists, risking being dragged to their death. It was a spectacle of speed, skill, and pure carnage. Modern motorsports are risky, but they're surrounded by safety rules. Chariot racing, with its near certainty of a gruesome end, would be banned without a second thought. At number 5, we have another insane Roman event, the venatio. The name literally means the hunt, but this was no fair contest. This was the mass slaughter of animals for public amusement, designed to show off the immense power and reach of the Roman Empire. Thousands of exotic and dangerous animals, lions, tigers, bears, elephants, rhinos, and crocodiles, were captured from the farthest corners of the empire and shipped to Rome. In the arena, they were hunted and killed by armed men called venatores, or forced to fight each other in bloody matchups. These events were cruelty on an industrial scale. Historical accounts tell of thousands of animals being killed in a single festival. The sheer brutality, the inhumane capture and transport of the animals, and the celebration of killing for entertainment violate every modern principle of animal welfare. The venatio would be universally condemned and outlawed today as a grotesque display of animal cruelty. Number 4 isn't even really a sport. It's a terrifying rite of passage that was basically state-sanctioned murder, the Spartan cryptia. In this secretive institution, elite young Spartan men were sent into the countryside with little more than a dagger to survive on their own. According to ancient sources like Plutarch, their main mission was to terrorize Sparta's massive enslaved population, the Helots. At night, these young men would prowl the roads, tasked with killing any helot they found, specifically targeting the strongest and those most likely to lead a revolt. While modern historians debate the exact purpose and scale of the cryptia, was it a secret police force, a brutal final exam, or a guerrilla warfare unit? The ancient accounts paint a horrifying picture. An organized system of hunting and murdering a civilian population wouldn't be a sport. It would be a crime against humanity. At number 3 is the original MMA, the ancient Greek sport of pankration. Introduced to the Olympic Games in 648 BCE, its name translates to All of Power, a fitting title for a fight with almost no rules. It was a brutal mashup of boxing and wrestling where pretty much anything went. Fighters could punch, kick, twist limbs with joint locks, and apply chokeholds. The only things officially off limits were biting and eye gouging. There were no weight classes and no time limits, so a smaller competitor could find himself in a life-or-death battle against a giant. A match only ended when a fighter gave up, was knocked out, or died. And death was a very real outcome. The famous story of Aricion of Phigalia tells of a champion who, while being choked out, managed to break his opponent's ankle, forcing him to submit. Just as the judges declared Aricion the winner, they found he had already died from the chokehold, posthumously winning his Olympic crown. A sport where death is a valid way to win would get an immediate, permanent ban today. You knew this was coming. At number 2, it's gladiatorial combat. For centuries, the arenas of the Roman Empire, most famously the Colosseum, were stages for fights that were often to the death. Gladiators were typically enslaved people, criminals, or prisoners of war, their lives thrown away for the entertainment of the masses. But these weren't just chaotic brawls. Gladiators were highly trained fighters who specialized in different styles of weapons and armor, creating carefully managed matchups, like a swordsman versus a fighter with a net and trident. The goal, however, was always bloodshed. While not every single match ended in death, a skilled gladiator was a pricey investment, the mortality rate was horrific. Studies suggest that in certain periods, a losing gladiator had as much as a 1 in 2 chance of being killed. The final decision of life or death often came down to the roar of the crowd or a simple hand gesture from the emperor. The idea of a state-sponsored show where people are forced to kill each other is the very definition of barbarism. It would be outlawed as a fundamental violation of human rights. And the number 1 most insane ancient sport is the Mesoamerican ballgame. This game is crazy. It was played for over 3,500 years by cultures like the Maya and Aztecs, and it combined incredible skill with the ultimate price. This game, called Olamalistli by the Aztecs, was played on eye-shaped courts with a solid rubber ball that could weigh up to 9 pounds. Players had to strike the ball using only their hips, thighs, and sometimes forearms, trying to keep it in play or get it through high stone hoops. What makes this sport so terrifying is its deep connection to ritual human sacrifice. Now, it's not like every game ended this way. It was likely reserved for special, sacred occasions. But prominent carvings on ball courts like the one at Chichen Itza explicitly show decapitated players. The game was a sacred ritual, a reenactment of cosmic myths, and sacrifice was part of that. Historians still debate the details. Was it the losing captain who was sacrificed as punishment, or was being sacrificed the ultimate honor reserved for the winning captain? Imagine winning the championship, and your prize is a ceremonial beheading to appease the gods. For directly linking athletic glory with ritual sacrifice, the Mesoamerican ballgame is easily the most shocking ancient sport that would be banned today. I can't believe these games were real. It just shows how much the world has changed. What we see as brutality, they saw as entertainment. So, which of these sports do you think was the most insane? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you thought this was as crazy as I did, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. From the Colosseum to the sacrificial ball courts of Mesoamerica, it is wild to think what used to be entertainment would be a crime today. These sports are a crazy reminder of how different things were. It really makes you wonder, what are we doing today that people in the future will be shocked by? Thanks for watching.